It's such a popular topic, a local movie studio even has a simulation for its visitors. And some would call that twisted, others just call it entertainment. You can call it what you want, but experts agree that Southern California is overdue for a very big earthquake. The United States Geological Survey is located here on the California Institute of Technology's campus. They spend all of their time listening to the ground, literally. Now, these drums are all connected to sensors underneath Southern California.
What the sensors see are ground motion at that site. That's not an earthquake. An earthquake is the process of a fault slipping. And that happens at depths of 10 kilometers below the surface of the earth. We don't have any sensors there. We never measure an earthquake directly. What we measure, when that fault slips, it releases energy. Just like if you snap your fingers, it's very similar to an earthquake. You push your fingers together, and therefore friction keeps them from coming apart. You keep on pushing harder, and you finally overcome the friction, and you slip. And that process of slipping, energy is released as sound waves. To produce that sound, you're releasing energy. Well, the same thing happens in the earth. Energy is released as sound waves, but in the earth, they're a much lower frequency, so we feel them instead of hear them.
Sounds simple enough, huh? Dr. Lucille Jones is an expert on earthquake activity in Southern California.
In your opinion, what are the chances of this major earthquake happening in the near future?
Well, right now, that's not even quite just my opinion. There was a study commissioned by the USGS to analyze exactly that, and they came up saying that the chance of a magnitude 7.5 or greater on one or both of the southern San Andreas segments in the next 30 years, there's a 60% chance of having that earthquake.
What would a major earthquake do to the area? What would happen?
People would feel a force pushing them that would be at least as large as the force of gravity, and maybe larger. And the shaking would continue for a few minutes. Though probably the really intense shaking would only be as the earthquake moves past that segment of the fault.
The section of the San Andreas Fault running through Palmdale, California, about 40 miles north of Los Angeles, has major earthquakes on the average of every 131 years. Take a guess at how many years have passed since the last big one. That's right, there hasn't been a major earthquake in this area for exactly 131 years. This lake is actually a sag pond caused by the fault allowing water to seep up and then blocking its drainage channels. It's now a local fishing hole. Kind of makes you wonder if they know what they're sitting or floating on, actually. Whether or not they realize that this sag pond was also caused by the fault.
This pond is known to local residents as bottomless. One story even describes the fate of an 18-wheeler truck coming around that turn, losing control and diving into the water. It was never found, even with the help of remote diving equipment. And we tried to get one of our crew to check it out, but no one would volunteer to dive in, so it remains a mystery to this day.
Dodd and Julie Talbot live in the Palmdale Country Club, located just 5 miles from the lake you just saw and the San Andreas Fault. How could anyone dare to live this close to a virtual bomb waiting to go off? Doesn't it bother them?
I didn't think much about it. I mean, I know it's there. I've known it for years.
It wasn't a factor in deciding whether or not to buy the house?
Nah.
I've lived in Acton since 1968, and I'm as close to it there as I am here, practically. I mean...
Yeah, we're all close to it. Hopefully, if the thing falls off, we'll have beachfront property. You never know.
What would you do if the quake struck tomorrow?
We really haven't planned anything for ourselves.
So you don't give it much thought?
Not at all.
And here's another thought. When this section of the fault decides to let loose, it will probably severely damage the California aqueduct running right next to it. And that would disrupt one of LA's primary water sources for quite a while.
From this point, we may be looking at California's newest beachfront property in the next few minutes, days, years, or maybe even hundreds of years. No one knows for sure when, but most agree this area will be moving sometime in the future.